Hey, Kate, what did you eat last night?
I had a twice-baked potato with smuggled cheese.
Wait a minute. You did say smuggled, did you not?
I did. There's this...
I think I know where this is leading, but could you please explain why you're using the word smuggled?
Because my mom and I smuggled cheese in from England when we come back into the country, because I think, we're not entirely sure, but we think it might be illegal to bring cheese. And so there's this cheddar cheese from Marks and Spencer's that we get called Cornish Cruncher that is the best cheddar cheese in the entire world. It's so good. You've tried it.
Yes, that's the cheese you always make a point of smuggling so I can have some.
Exactly. And oh my God, it's so, so good. So I just made a twice-baked potato with that. So you bake your potato, you cut it open, you scoop out the insides, and into a bowl you put a little milk if you have it, a little butter, some cheese. I use a little bit of chive because I have some chives growing right now. And just mush it all, salt and pepper, mush it all back together, put it in, back in the shells, and a little bit of cheese on top, back in the toaster oven. Melt and brown that cheese on top till it's bubbly. And you have to...
That sounds good.
Oh my God, it's so good. And you have to bake the potato right. Like, I don't know what happened in this country where people think that baked potatoes have soft skins, because that's ridiculous. They're supposed to be crunchy, people. I don't understand this. So you have to have crunchy potato skins in your twice-baked potato in order for it to be the best thing ever.
Nice. Do you ever think what would happen when you and your mom are coming back into the country, and if you got nabbed, would you, like, say, it's all my fault, let me take the hit, and not, so you would get arrested and not your mom, or would you let her go down?
Well, given that we each have it in our relative suitcases, I really don't know how that's possible. Our plan has always been to plead ignorance, that we didn't know it was illegal, but if the immigration people are listening right now, then that plan is out the window.
Ruined.
Although I actually do think, I have to say, I just read something very recently that I think said it's meat you're not allowed to bring in, but you are actually allowed to bring cheese in now. Because it was when I was looking about something about French cheese. They were talking about how you can bring cheese into the country from France. So if you can bring it in from France, okay. I'm sure you can bring it in from England. But I don't know. So our plan is to plead ignorance and hope she'll get off easy. As she puts it, she's an old woman.
If there's any immigration experts out there, feel free to let us know.
Yeah, exactly. Let us know if this is a horrible plan. And did you eat anything smuggled last night? What did you have?
I did not eat anything smuggled, but I'm going to have to try and live up to your path here. I made a golden beet and blue cheese dip.
You did not.
I did. It was really simple because, again, I'm into all the stuff that's just easy to deal with, easy to mix. So you basically have a medium beet, and you know how beets are really good for the blood? They tend to be cleansing. They tend to be good for your kidney. Well, I didn't want to have too much health going on, so I made sure I picked a recipe that also included reduced fat cream cheese. 4 ounces. It has like 4 ounces of blue cheese, and then it has low-fat sour cream, and then a cup of low-fat mayonnaise.
Oh my God!
I sort of did full-fat. I know, right?
Wow!
It's going downhill quickly.
Wow!
Oh, but it has lemon juice. That's healthy.
Cream cheese, sour cream, and mayonnaise, and blue cheese. That's impressive, man.
Living large, Kate. Living the dream.
So wait, did you roast the beets? How does that work?
Yeah, I did. I preheated the oven and then roast the beets, and it's super simple. You just let them go for like 45 minutes to an hour, and then you let all that other stuff soften, and you mix it all up. And you mix up all the cheese. You mix up like the blue cheese, the sour cream, the mayonnaise, and the cream cheese, and then you sort of just basically chop or shred. I shredded the beets, and then you just sort of fold them in, and it's really beautiful. This one also has 2 tablespoons of low-fat milk. It has some green onions, and then it had some Tabasco sauce or other hot sauce, which I throw in, and it also had garlic you can throw in there. God, it was tasty.
That sounds amazing. That sounds very much like a version of the blue cheese dip that I make, but without the beets and with a little bit less of those dairy products. But yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was really tasty. On some crackers, all's well with the world.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of You Won't Believe What I Ate Last Night. I'm Kate DeVore.
And I am Rick Fiore.
And this is our ongoing conversation about food, health, weight management, and our endeavor to be and stay healthy in a really tasty world.
With love, kindness, and compassion towards ourselves and others.
So we usually focus on the first part of the topic that we just gave you, which is the food part. And today we're going to focus more on the second half, which is how to stay healthy in a tasty world with love, kindness, and compassion. So we're going to play you a montage of clips from all of the folks that we've interviewed on our podcast. And we have pulled out the essence of their answer to that question of how they do that. How do they stay healthy in a tasty world? How do they do it with love, kindness, and compassion toward themselves and others? So after you listen to the little montage of clips, Rick and I are going to come back and we're going to have a conversation about the themes that we feel have emerged. So enjoy.
Here is wellness chef and health coach Amanda Scripp.
You know, this is where it is really, I guess maybe it's the boring answer about like balance and moderation. I think it just comes down to, again, like tuning into how I'm feeling and what I'm actually hungry for and what I actually want. And that's where I think it's pretty powerful when you do just listen to yourself and your body. You have a way of, you know, kind of, it takes a lot of the struggle around diet and food. I think you can't really have a healthy lifestyle and a healthy diet without having some compassion and some mindfulness around your relationship with food and around the choices that you're making.
This is integrative health and lifestyle coach Christy Churchvara.
So when I feel like I'm starting to falter, I definitely go to a staple detox, 10-day detox cleanse that I personally do. I do it every season. I also, I kind of look where I'm off balanced in my integrative, and it's usually that I haven't maybe touched base with my close peeps and try to build those, go out and have some herbal tea or do something like that. I get out the door and I start walking and infusing that exercise. No judgments. I know that everybody, just having an understanding that everybody has a struggle in their life. And I'm a very huge component of self-love. That's the first thing I usually work with on is clients is self-love, because if you don't have self-love, then why are you going to treat yourself well, and why are you going to eat healthy if you don't even love yourself?
And Lenny and Shalva Gale, creators of Life is No Yoke.
Your flavor profile kind of changes over time, and I have always been someone that sugar and carbs are my thing. But I've slowly kind of gotten away from that just by helping myself eat healthy. I don't crave it as much, but also when I do have it, it's not as satisfying as it used to be.
Eating healthy is a relative scale for everyone. And when they do it, whether that means ordering chicken instead of beef, whether that means egg whites instead of whole eggs, whether that means a green smoothie in the morning, whatever it is, this is a step in the right direction for them. And it is worthy of a big high five. And so I think that remembering that everything is relative and baby steps and momentum are the key to success.
Here is Chef Penny Liley.
I think staying healthy these days is knowing about your body and respecting your body. I do have a theory that for so many people, we've moved on to fat-free diets, but I have a funny feeling, or that is good for us. I have a funny feeling in years to come, they're going to be saying, hey, gee, sorry, folks, we got that wrong. It's limiting the amount you're eating of fats and eating the good fats, and possibly having a smaller plate size than one might want. Well, I treat myself. I love avocados. I love fish and chicken, and I love salad.
And naturopathic Dr. Ryan Knese.
I like to get one meal replacement shake in every single day. So I use different protein powders, different meal replacement shakes. I mix it with coconut milk, almond milk, soy milk. I don't generally use dairy, but I can use it in a pinch. And I mix it with different fruits and veggies. I blend it up, and that's what I have for breakfast every single day. Sometimes you need to promote love and say, listen, you're going to mess up. You're going to have little falls, little trips. It happens. You're going to cheat. You're going to have some chocolate. You're going to have some ice cream. It happens. Don't focus on that trip up. Focus on the future. Move forward and focus on what you can do now. Focus on what you can do tomorrow to focus on your health. So don't focus on the past, focus on moving forward and try to live in the moment.
Lifestyle nutritionist Vicky Shantaratelny.
So I try to go as plant-based as possible, more of a flexitarian approach where I'll add a little bit of meat in. Potentially at night, I'll usually have less of the carbohydrate, like the grains in the evening. I usually do that more during the day. So it's making wise choices, but I would say the biggest message for people is to eat more plant-based. I try to give myself quality calories before I have the empty calories. That you really do need to practice compassion with food. So if you do have a treat, say you love chocolate chip cookies, or you could tell that's one that I love, or you love fried chicken, have a small amount, enjoy it, plan it into your day, savor it, and then move on and make the choice to have vegetables and fruits at the next meal or even with that meal so that you're enjoying it in balance. Because, when you feed yourself well, it really is a reflection of how much you love yourself and how much you want to create wellness in your own life. So it's what you're putting in your body that's a reflection of how you feel. When you don't feel great, what are you reaching for? Things that may not be the most beneficial for you. When you feel great and you're moving along well and there's a lot of compassion for yourself and love, you want to eat better. You just feel like that. You want to give yourself good fuel.
And personal coach Natalie Miller.
I don't want to say no very much, right? I don't. Yeah. I don't want to. I want to have dessert when I go out to eat, or I want to buy the organic berries that are so beautiful at the market, and that kind of say yes really appeals to me.
Here's Indian cookbook author May Friedel.
But the thing is, cooking at home is very important. So from morning till evening, we make good food. We have my garden I'm growing. We have all kinds of herbs, curry leaf to cilantro to bay leaf to all herbs in the summer. It's so exciting. Basically, Aditi Devo Bhava means, Aditi means guest. Devo means God. So basically, you are treating everyone you come into your home as gods. Yes, you need to show compassion towards yourself first. If you are not healthy, you can't, happy. So if you're happy, you can be happy. Everybody else surrounding will be happy.
And Malcolm, head brewer at Round Barn Winery, Brewery and Distillery.
Well, that's a challenging question because I make beer and I drink a lot of beer. But,
and yet you appear very fit.
Yes. Well, I'm a martial artist. I practice Kung Fu and Tai Chi. And so there's a balance between, my work life, which is also my drinking life, and then also my personal life, which is where I spend a lot of time practicing and training and keeping up with my routines. And I teach a class as well, so cool. I'm able to keep other people fit too. So as far as beer making goes, beer is all about providing love to someone. Beer has always been a source of joy for me. So it's not just about drinking it and getting plastered and having a good time. It's also about being able to provide people with that really great, exceptional experience.
Wow, listening to all of those clips back to back, it's really sort of wonderful to hear all the great advice we've gotten over the years. So first off, a thank you to all of our guests that have been part of the You Won't Believe What I Ate Last Night family this year. It's really just made the podcast go to a whole nother level.
Yes, thank you guys so much. It's lovely to hear it all like that in a row. You're right.
And we will have links for all of our guests this year in the notes section on the podcast page on our website. So, Kate, what pearls of wisdom have stood out for you from that montage?
Well, one of them, the thing that always seems to be a really meaningful concept to me that I sometimes pay attention to and sometimes don't, is the idea of resetting my hedonistic set point. And I just love that phrase. And because it encompasses something that I absolutely, totally get, and I really understand what it means. So the idea of that's what the cleanses do. And it's been a while since I've done one of those. And that's why they're so useful for me, among other things, is that I can really tell that I have not reset my hedonistic set point. So when I have something super healthy, a lot of the times I'm like, yeah, but I wish it was something else, as opposed to loving it for what it is. Sometimes, not all the time.
Yeah.
But overall, that's definitely a shift that I need to keep making, and I need to remember that I keep making it. And I think that is one of the greatest acts of kindness and compassion toward myself that I could offer. So that really rose to the top for me as something that I want to make a sort of action item, if you will.
Oh, I love that idea. And really the whole ability that we have to sort of cleanse our palate, right? Of what came before. It's such a great thing to remember, because it really is this whole idea of sort of trying to stop your habit in its tracks, right?
Yeah.
To really just get that sensation or that craving, whatever it is, just to get it out of your system, man, and try to get something new in there.
Yeah, because otherwise it feels like a punishment, which just never works.
Oh,
so
totally.
the shift in terms of how do I eat healthily and want to and like it, because I've been there before, and it's always been because I loved doing it. It's like when I used to work out all the time, people were always like, how do you make yourself go to the gym twice a day or every single day at least? And I'm like, I don't make myself. I desperately want to do it. If I was making myself,
Totally.
I would not be here.
Totally.
That's the thing for me, is I have to flip the switch that allows me to love it. And that's what that resetting of the set point does.
And that just speaks to that whole thing about this whole idea of the other theme that came up is this idea that stuck out with me is really loving life. And trying to be in life fully. And this whole idea of what gets you into that position where you can just be fully engaged in life. And you just said it so wonderfully. This idea that if you can reset your hedonistic set point, if you can reset, whatever the set point would be for your exercise so that it becomes something you crave and you really love. Because I think one of the changes how that resonated with me this year is you and I have been talking about this offline, that one of the things I had made or said to myself earlier in the year was that I was really going to make sure that I was on the treadmill every day for at least an hour. And that's when I would watch TV. And because I never had time to watch TV anyway, and I never had time to work out. So I put them all together. And it's something that I've really come to crave now. And I get really bummed when I can't watch my TV, nor when I get
your
my
programs.
Exactly. So I just really love that whole idea of how do you reset any part of your body so that, the old habit gets washed out and it sort of gets replaced with the new one.
Totally. And I probably have shared this on here before, but in terms of the food part, and I think we can extrapolate this to other things, that client I had who was talking about the people in Japan, instead of saying, don't eat that, it's bad for you, they say, eat this, it's good for you. So focusing on the things, that was revelatory for me. That changed my life, literally, that concept. And so I was just talking to somebody about this yesterday. Oh my God, it was Martha Beck. Life coach Martha Beck.
You were talking to Martha Beck?
Well, we had sort of, yes. We had an interaction on Facebook.
Nice.
She did a live thing, and I posted a response. I posted 2 responses. One of them was just commenting on something funny she said, and then the other one I actually asked a question, and she answered. And so we had a little dialogue. So I was sort of talking to Martha Beck, who, if you guys don't know Martha Beck, she's one of my favorite, I don't know, I guess life coaches you'd call her.
She's a life coach, yeah.
She is a font of wisdom and humor, and I adore her. So she was talking about the knowing of certain things, and that somebody had this near-death experience, and he came out of it knowing 3 things, and that was that he was always safe, that... Oh, shoot. Now I don't remember what the other 2 were, but they were really good. But that's not where my brain was at this moment. But the point is, I was like, I feel like I've known those things at times in my life. How is it possible to unknow something? And she wrote back to that you always know it. It's just that the clutter of your mind gets in the way of that knowing.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's sort of like when your body gets overloaded with carbs. It can't really let protein do what it needs to do.
Yeah, totally. So I think there's a sense to me of, it's not that I have to do more or learn more. It's that I have to get out of my own way more and get the clutter of my mind out of my path so that my true wisdom is more accessible because
Right.
I know it's in there.
And this is something you and I talk a lot about, the whole idea that, what you need to know, it's there.
Yeah.
It always has been. It always will be.
Right.
And it does get covered up over time.
Right. Didn't Richard
things.
Bach say something in Illusions about that? Learning is discovering what you already know.
Oh, yeah. Very good.
I loved that. That was another thing that was really meaningful for me.
This takes me to the idea that came up when we talked to Lenny and Shalva, Gail from Life is No Yoke. This idea that he said about practicing giving yourself high fives for the small stuff. Because I actually am not very good at that. When I really think back, I do so many great things and I eat well so many times, but I very rarely give myself a high five. There's always a sense, okay, you did it great, next.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And I really, really love that idea because if I really practice that, God, I'd be giving myself so much more positivity throughout the day and throughout the week in relation to food.
I'm just sort of shaking my head with a sigh here. Yeah, totally. It's true. And I've been really working on in my teaching how to be not less critical when my job is to critique, which a lot of the times it is, but how to do that in a way that feels more like, feels less critical. And so I think it's the whole idea that comes back to it's the way we treat ourselves that bleeds into how we treat others. So perhaps the way I'm going to find that in my teaching, or that it will come into my teaching, is if I start a little bit more with myself, because I am so critical toward myself, far more critical toward myself than I am toward anyone else,
Yeah. And that always brings up something that we've talked about before, which is this whole idea is that we're so much harder on ourselves than we would ever be on anyone else in the world.
I know.
And I think you're right. There's a real connection that if you are gentler with yourself, it's naturally going to translate to other people, because there is this idea of how you are the majority of the day with yourself and by yourself. That's how you're really going to show up to the majority of people around you. A lot of times I think it just naturally bleeds over, whatever mentality you get set into, and however you start to frame things and think about. That's just the lens through which you see everyone and everything.
Yeah. And I find when I do give myself that little high five, if this little voice goes, good job, me, this other voice, the clutter voice that I'm talking about, comes in and is like, that's stupid. So again, it's about getting out of my own way, I think.
Yeah, totally. It's a great way to say it. And, you just made me think of my friend Emmy, who is Emmy, who, when we're eating, she's got such a wonderful attitude towards food. And I'm really trying to adopt it, that she is, of all the people I know, really one of these people who's like, it is what it is in the moment and it's done. And no sense beating yourself up about it. And it is what it is. And I just love that whole idea of how can you really practice that for me on a more ongoing basis. Because, the more, as you know, the kinder I am to myself, it's just going to affect everyone and everything.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's not so much about the food toward myself that I'm so critical, because I was like, I'm a little bit like that, and it doesn't seem to be going so well for me right now to be that way. It's more other areas that I was discussing. Yeah.
Yeah. God. Let's talk about this idea that came up a lot, if you don't mind, this whole idea of loving yourself and giving yourself, how do you love yourself? And I think it's such a great idea, because I really think, well, how do I love myself during the day? What do I do to show love towards myself? And so I've been thinking a lot about it a lot ever since we've been talking about this episode. And so I'm not really sure. So I'm just sort of in this place of how do I show love to myself? Because there is this weird thing that I feel like I really love my life. Like I do so many great things. I have so many great friends that I feel like that's a way of I do all these things. I'm thinking, I really do love myself because I treat myself so well and I have the ability to. But I don't always register it. I just sort of do these things and they're really fun in the moment because I love going out. I love hanging out with my friends. It's sort of a big component of a very active social life, but it doesn't always register. So I think I'm trying to make this connection that, remember, all these things you do, even though it keeps you busy, it keeps you on a treadmill, right? Even going out with your friends, going to parties and going to concerts or going to theater and traveling. I sometimes even start to forget that, you got to remember, this is like a love fest. Like if all the things you do to love yourself become one more thing that you have to check off a list, one more thing you have to get through. And that's actually how it gets for me. I'm like, I literally said this to myself. I came home from a trip and I unpacked my bag. It's like, oh, now I got to start packing for another trip. Instead of, just starting to see it a different way. I'm like, oh, awesome. Oh, great. I just unpacked. Woohoo, I get to pack for another trip. How lucky am I?
Yes, exactly.
You know that distinction I'm talking about? Yeah.
Yeah. That is a really interesting point, that when the things that we do to demonstrate love to ourselves become onerous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great word for it. Yeah.
Yeah. And is it really, or is it just the perspective, which comes again to, it's only about the perspective. Everything comes down to perspective.
Mm-hmm.
There is no reality. It's just a series of perspectives. And your perspective is your reality. And it's the only thing we can control. The absolute only thing in the world we can control is our reaction to things and our perspective to things. And it's interesting how we can have, that shift. Is like, oh God, now I have to pack again. To yay, I get to pack again.
Totally.
And I totally get that. So how do we do that? Is it just a muscle? Is it just a habit to remember?
I think so. I mean, that's where I'm at. Because listen, so much of our talk on this podcast has been about being in the moment, meditation. How do you become more present? And it is about shifting your consciousness on an ongoing basis. And to me, I've sort of, it's this whole thing. To me, it doesn't come up right now as, being present. But what it is just this constant state of recognizing that, all of this is really good stuff. And how do you keep it going? How do you keep it going? So all the good stuff just doesn't become, as you said, onerous, as it doesn't become just another task one has to get done.
Yeah. You know what's interesting that didn't come up? And I'm sure that this is something that all of our experts would agree with. It just didn't happen to come up in our discussion. One of the most important elements for me in this whole topic of love, kindness, and compassion to ourselves and others is gratitude.
Amen.
I remember reading a research study not too long ago that showed that the most satisfying emotion to feel was gratitude.
Oh.
And that it makes you the happiest, really, to feel gratitude. More than love, more than joy, more than anything else. Like the most satisfying emotion is gratitude or thankfulness. So I've been lately remembering to, I'm generally pretty good about verbalizing gratitude toward people. But I thank people for stuff all the time. Like
totally.
That's something I'm pretty good about. But like I've been like when I'm laying in bed feeling anxious, I just start a litany of things I'm thankful for, and I feel my body relax. I feel my heart soften. It's really remarkably powerful stuff. So I want to throw that into the mix as something that I think is a big piece of this for me.
I agree with you, because there's nothing for me that shifts me as quickly and just fully as a gratitude practice.
Right?
Nothing. Because it automatically, it just shifts everything. And I always think about my meditation. So when I sit down to meditate, the first minute or so, even before I really start to do what people might consider meditation, I always do 1 to 2 minutes of a gratitude check-in. Mm-hmm. I just go through all the things I'm grateful for either this day. Sometimes that extrapolates out to this week or this month, or just one thing that some person did for me. And I do it because it's just one of those things that, as you just said so wonderfully, it gets my body to soften. It helps me sit a little bit taller. It helps me feel a little bit fuller. And it definitely makes me feel a little bit lighter.
Mm-hmm. It does.
And how does that incorporate into a daily practice? I think it goes back to a little bit about what we were saying. It's just, how do you practice being more grateful for everything that comes your way, particularly when it's really awesome?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's one of those things. I've been walking around lately, like moving from one task to the other, thinking of something I'm thankful for, like I really have been interspersing it throughout the day like that, a little bit more than I have more recently.
Nice.
It's good. Yeah.
Let's talk about what came up a lot which is this idea of balance. I think it's always good to sort of, see where my definition of balance is, like any given month or any given day, because there's so many wonderful definitions of it. How would you say balance, when you hear that, how's it showing up for you now?
I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of, right, you can look at it as, some people think of balance as moderation, and some people look at it as balancing the extremes. So I tend to be more that one.
Balancing the extremes.
Yeah, I tend to be more extreme and less middle of the road, just in general, I'd say.
Yeah.
How about you?
I would say yes. I tend to be that way too. That I definitely pulse towards the extremes, and the place, what you might call the middle, or the place of equipoise between these two dynamics, is something that doesn't always last very long for me. But overall, I feel like when I do have these extremes of, let's just say, like, I'm really going to go eat, or I'm just going to go, have fun, I really am getting better at balancing that maybe the next day, right, with not eating a lot.
Yeah.
And resting a little bit more. So I always think, it'd be so great. I'm just not that type of person that when I go out to eat, I can find the balance in that particular moment. And I'm like, okay, I'll find the balance next day. Because,
yeah, but I mean, balance is balancing two things. That is really what it means. So
yeah, and I always see it as balancing it more closely, like in the given moment, where I feel like my balance comes, those balances are spread a little bit farther apart. That's how I see it in my head.
Yeah. Right. It's not about moderation. It is about giving equal time to both extremes by that definition. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the other big ideas for me, Kate, was something that Malcolm from Round Barn Winery had brought up. And he's the man in charge of brewing all the beer. And he really made this link between compassion, doing what you do well for a living, and compassion. This idea that you can really just make it your job to make a really great beer, to make it the best beer you can make it. And the fact that that's going to go out and make someone else feel really, really, really good, something really new that they haven't experienced before. I just thought was such a beautiful way to phrase this idea of how do you practice compassion.
Yeah, and the word that you used when we were talking about it earlier was service. And I think that is such a key word, because that is one of the tenets of every spiritual tradition is service, right? That's really the highest expression of ourselves, is to be in service. And so, yeah, I think that's great. And the way he serves is by making great beer, and that's a loving gesture to him that allows people to have these amazing experiences. So,
totally.
Yeah, service is a great one. Great one. Yeah. So, you guys, we want to know what you do. How do you
stay healthy in a really tasty world? Is there anything in the podcast that really stuck out with you? Let us know. Let us know what really resonated from any of our guests.
Yeah, and how do you live with love, kindness, and compassion toward yourself and others? Let us know by writing us a message on our Facebook page, by sending us an email, youwon'tbelievewhatIate@gmail.com, by sending us a voice recording that you can just do on your phone and shoot it to that email. You can visit our website, youwon'tbelievewhatIate.com.
You can also follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at You Won't Believe What I Ate. And as always, thank you so much for listening. We so appreciate your support.
Thank you, guys. We love you.
Love you.